This series, examining how to be a successful owner-operator, is brought to you by Michelin Canada. Michelin, a better way forward.
So right now that I'm out there every day earning and living as an owner-operator, I need to keep my record clean because if I don't, I know that it affects my employability and it affects my own safety. What can I do to make sure that I keep a clean record? I got a clean slate when I start out. How do I keep it that way?
Well, there's a number of things that you should do. Obviously, you got to know the rules, so you got to keep yourself up to date. And if you're with a carrier, typically they're gonna be having safety meetings and putting out information to you that you shouldn't be ignoring. You should be understanding exactly what the message is from them. And typically, what they do is they send out things that, for lack of a better term, might be the flavor of the day in the U.S. or in Canada or Ontario or Michigan. Like, what are they focusing on right now? I think, right in Ontario right now, there's a safety blitz going on, so everybody's got to have everything, T's crossed and the I's have got to be dotted. But if you're, working on your own, you still have that same responsibility. Obviously, keeping your speed correct and doing all your pre-trip inspections, making sure your logbooks are filled out properly, and all those mundane, regular things that people can get lazy with are the things that'll bite you, because it's Murphy's Law. As soon as you get lazy on something, that's when it's going to be asked for, and you get caught with it. So, you got to be diligent with this stuff, and you got to understand that, if something does happen, you get busted with something, it's typically because you got lazy. We don't want to be playing the blame game. If you're not doing the things you're supposed to be doing and you get a ticket for it, then you're the one responsible for it. And with CSA 2010, carriers are looking much more closely at those drivers that are crossing the border these days, because it can affect their overall rating depending on the record of the people they hire. And it's a pre-employment thing, or it's standard right now. So you don't want a lot of nasty marks on that record. And basically, CSA is recording every point of contact with the driver by anybody within their network. So, it records the good stops and the bad stops, and there's no place to hide. It's just the way it is, and you don't want to be on the low water side of that equation, or you could find yourself unemployable, or unemployable is the wrong term. You could find yourself with no one offering you a contract as an owner-operator.
Okay. Does CSA bring a new reality to owner-operators in terms of how they manage to stay compliant? Is it much more difficult under CSA? Or?
I don't think so. It's going to be much more difficult, and this is what the industry is hoping for. It's going to be much more difficult for those people that maybe should be scrutinized, that don't do it right, that are running scales and running too fast and doing all the things that unfortunately give our industry a bad reputation. For those good operators that are doing it right, that try their best to stay compliant and really follow the rules and keep up, they're going to be fine. There's a huge industry that's been built up of consultants about the boogeyman at CSA. But I mean, if you're half decent and looking after yourself, you're going to be fine. Again, the nasty operators, the hope is the industry will get rid of a bunch of those fellows.
There are the rules, and then there's the real world. And we'll take hours of service for an example. If I run out of hours, an hour from home, it's going to be awfully tempting to push on to get home rather than be stranded in the middle of nowhere overnight. Do I have to fight that temptation, or are there ways you can bend the rules a little bit?
You know what, I'm not a safety guy, I'm not a safety guru, and I appreciate the question, and I've been in that position many times myself, so I don't want to be the pot, or do as I say, not as I've done, but that was many years ago too. Right now, those things are going to follow you, that's all I can say. If you happen to get caught, it's going to follow you, and they're very stringent on a logbook CCR compared to when I drove 25 years ago. Now that's just the nasty. It's the big, ugly nasty. And if you get a few of those things, again, you may find yourself in a position where nobody wants to offer you a contract because you're going to hurt their overall record. And really, the way this looks from the 50,000 foot level for me, it looks as though in a year and a half, 2 years, once a couple of the litigators get through taking one of these court cases through that there happens to be an accident on, then they're going to end up at the carrier and say that your CSA ranking is below standard. You're moving freight at a rate that's not as competitive as or as competitive, but you're doing it with owner-operators that don't stand up to the rest. So, it's going to take a couple of years for that stuff to all follow I think, flow right through to its true implication. So carriers are starting to get worried about it now and what might happen, and they're watching.
I can control my own compliance, but I can't control how other drivers are behaving out on the roads. Is there anything I can do to sort of give myself a better chance of not being involved in a collision with one of these aggressive drivers?
You know, all I can tell you is my own experience, and I drove for 10 years. I'm awful proud to have 1,000,000 miles safe driving, and I probably should have had an accident the first year or two. I wasn't the safest guy out there, but after that it clicked into me that and my attitude was everybody that come on the highway was out to get me, and I would stay away from them. You know, if somebody's merging in and even if they're a mile ahead, I'm in the center lane or I'm out in the other lane. I'm trying to stay as far away as I can from those folks and trying to avoid any kind of problem. So, I mean, you just got to keep your wits about you and stay out of situations as best you can that might be dangerous.
And if I do get a fine, and maybe it's something that I don't feel I was guilty of, what are my choices? If this happens when I'm on the road and it's not nowhere near close to home, do I just pay the penalty and move on, or are there ways that you can fight those tickets?
Yeah, you know, there's lots of ways you can fight those tickets. You can find somebody locally to do that for you. There's an arbitration tool through CSA. Your carrier is typically going to want to get involved if they think there's a case for you, because what you do is going to reflect back on them. So if you've got a strong case for having gotten a ticket that you didn't deserve, they got skin in the game now too, because your ranking is their ranking. Your ranking adds to their ranking. So I'd go to the carrier, and they need to know it anyways. And obviously you got to log it on your logbook, so that's where they're going to see it. So you go and take that into them and see what they might do to help you. And typically through associations, they're going to have some network that might help them get in front of the right people that could either mitigate that down to a lesser fine or maybe get rid of it. But no, just if you think you're in the right, then you've got ways to see what you can do about that.
And if I've kept my CVOR clean, my abstract clean, I'm obviously proud of that. Should I be keeping an eye on that, make sure that I haven't mistakenly been assigned any charges that I didn't commit?
Oh, for sure. And I'm not a soothsayer, but I think in a few years from now we're going to have a situation where the really clean owner operators with with good equipment that know what they're doing are going to get a premium. I mean, the market's really going to be looking for those. And I say the market, I mean carriers are going to want those types of people, and they're going to be competition to get them. So, yeah, you should be watching and making sure if you're doing things right that something doesn't sneak on your record that shouldn't be there, which, these are all government bureaucracies. They don't always do things properly, and when they don't, if you're not on top of it, you might get hung with something that's not yours.
And the possibility of maybe earning a premium for having a safe record, that's pretty good motivation right there to stay on top of it.
Oh, you bet. Yeah, in my previous life, we paid additional monies for folks that were accident-free, that had clean records. We gave them a bonus every year every pay on a mileage. They got incremental money that other folks didn't get. So, and that's just for doing the right thing.
Next time out, we're going to talk about insurance. Not only insuring your rig, but insuring your health too and your livelihood.